Hey guys, these tires are up for grabs. BF Goodrich crawlers from Proline. Subscribe to the channel, write me a comment why you need these tires, and I will put you in the final draw. Now let's get back into today's video. Hey guys, on this week's show we're going to manipulate the body roll. This will help us especially when we're side hilling. When the car goes over a certain angle, the body starts to roll over, which eventually then pulls the car over. We're going to manipulate the chassis and the suspension so that we get a better side hilling angle. So let's check out that chassis. So what we need for this is some thread. I'll put that on the side. First thing we need to do is take the wheels off just on one side. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the thread. You can take anything, string, thread. I'm taking this. This is kind of a top stitch that you use on leather. I'm going to cut off about 1/2 meter or between 500 and 600. So a little bit over 1/2 meter. Then I'm going to loosen the bottom shock bolt or screw. And then I make a knot and tie that onto the bottom part of the shock. Once that's done, tighten the screw again so that you can pinch the thread. So now it's hooked up and you can start manipulating the suspension. Just going to clean this up. Now what I'm going to do is thread the string through one of the upper holes. Maybe I'll choose the one in front. It's maybe a better option. You can choose any hole in this case. It's just something that you can then make sure that it has movement. So now before we carry on, we need to put the wheels back on, or at least the front wheel back on, and take the car off the stand so that it stands on its own weight. To make the car stand straight, I'm just going to place the tire under it and make sure that the back of the axle is as level to the ground as possible. So now I know that the car is weighted down. So the suspension is weighted down by the weight of the car. I'm going to take the thread and thread it through one of the holes. Like I said, you can choose any hole, and we do the same thing on the back shock absorber. Loosen the back bolt, the lower bolt. Now this is where it becomes a little bit tricky. You got to put enough tension on it. Just wrap it around maybe like 2-3 times, and then you pinch it. Yeah, do that again. It unraveled itself. Wrap it around twice. Make sure the car's standing in under its own weight and it's standing as level as possible to the ground. And tighten. It's putting it down while I'm tightening it. Hang on a second. That seems perfect. Let me just clean up the bottom section of the thread. So now this is not going anywhere. Let me put the tire back on. So the one side is done, the other side is not done. So if I were to tilt the car this way, you can see we have a lot of roll in the body. if I were to do it the other way, you can see there's hardly any roll in the body. On this side we have quite a lot, on this side we don't. But it doesn't affect the articulation because the thread can actually move forwards and backwards while the car is articulating. The only thing I do not like about this is when you've got your car set on full droop, that when your car then does go into full droop, the thread actually holds the wheels up. So the axle cannot go into full droop anymore. Now if I would show you that on this side, you can see this is still drooping out, there where we don't have a thread. And on the other side, if I lift the car up, it immediately lifts the tires up. Let's show you that again. Going into full droop. And on this side, the tires immediately lift. I'm going to put a little marking here so that you can see how the thread is actually moving when the car articulates. And then we're going to run a little side heeling test. Let's place a bit of tape onto the thread. Now, when the car articulates, you can clearly see how the thread is actually moving as the car articulates. So the thread is allowing articulation. The only thing it's not allowing is droop. But if you know you're doing a lot of side hilling, you can use this setup because you're going to have a much better angle on side hilling because you do not have that amount of body roll. So let's run a quick test between the two sides. So here I have my side hilling rig. I'm going to place my car on there, tilt it to the side. Here I can measure what angle the car is at before it tilts or as it tilts. And let's begin. $30, $35. The body is now coming out of the suspension, coming close to 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, and at 45 she starts to go. Let's turn it around. Now this is the side that doesn't have any body roll. So 35, the suspension is not lifting, there's no body roll. We're at 40, 44, 45, 46. Oh, it slides off. Okay. Let me actually jam the tires in there so that they cannot move. Okay, I've placed a little bump stop on the side here because this is not the grippiest surface. Just placing the bump stop that it actually holds the tires in place so that we can measure the angle. Get the car into its proper suspension setting. There we go, or height, proper suspension height. And let's try that again. $35, $40, $41, $42, $43, $44, $45, $46, $47, $48, $49, and it starts going. So $47, $8. So between 48 and 49, the car starts to tilt. Let's do the other way again with the bump stops, just to make sure that we're doing the test equally. 35, 40, 43, 44, and at 43 the suspension starts to move and the body roll pulls the car over. So let's do that again. Coming to 40, 42, 43, 44, and there she goes. Let's quickly do the other side. So hooking the thread up to the bottom, and just snip that off, clean it up a little bit. There we go. Threading it through the top holes, or any top holes that you can find. Threading it through the back. Now we need to put the front tire back on. Let's actually put the car onto the table so we can make sure that the back axle is as level to the ground as possible. That looks perfect. Loosen the bottom screw of the shock absorber. Try and get it as equal as possible to the other side. Going to snip off the excess thread and put the back wheel back on. So, doing a quick articulation test, I've placed 2 little green tapes on the threads so that you can kind of see how they move out of sync. So when the articulation happens, they move across from each other. They move opposite to each other. So coming to an object, the car is still able to articulate on full articulation without manipulating the articulation. The only thing is that the droop of the suspension going into full droop, that is manipulated now. It's still working. Damn it. I didn't expect that to happen. Broke my magnet posts and my weight boxes. Okay, after that little mishap, to put this into perspective, what these 2 threads actually do. The negative part about it is the car does not have any droop. So as soon as I lift it, the tires are off the ground. So if you were to go over an object and it would bottom out, or your chassis would get stuck, you might have one of the wheels in the air and not having contact because you're losing the droop. Now that's obviously up to your driving skill to get around an object like that if you have this installed. The other thing is, now I'm going to put some articulation into the axles, and you can see how the threads are actually still moving, allowing the full articulation of the truck. So they move across from each other. Front axle and rear axle is exactly the same. So it's stopping the body roll almost completely. There's hardly any body roll on this. If you tighten it a little bit more, it'll push the shock absorbers down. That's up to you if you want to set it a little bit tighter, keeping the truck lower, keeping the weight lower, and obviously then you're going to have even less body roll. I think that I just broke my car, drove it off the side of the table. I'm going to drive without a body on. At least you can see what the strings are doing and watch the little green tapes, how they're moving across from each other while the car's articulating over the obstacles. So we are at my normal track. We're going to go up this obstacle, go around here, and I think this is where we're going to have a problem, because normally the full droop helps me get up this little, how must I call, angled obstacle, and then going across and going up to the top. But I'm just going to do some close filming so we can still see what the strings are doing, how the threads are moving across from each other while the car is articulating. You see, this is where the full droop would have come in to help me out of this situation. The car is sitting noticeably lower than it normally would. Let me actually film this from the side. And I still managed to go up this obstacle no problem. I'm actually very impressed with that. I thought I might have an issue with this, but hang on, let me get the camera back down. This is actually perfect. Actually, is impressive how low the car stays. If we were to adjust this a little bit more, tightening those strings down just a little bit more, the car would actually be a lot more stable on side hilling. Maybe we can get another 2 degrees out of it. Let's see how she does on downhilling. Seeing that the chassis can't really flex that much, and that it is lower to the ground, I have a lot more control going down the hills, where normally I notice that the car wants to flip, and eventually it does flip. And especially going up this little creek in here, I always flip the car. So I'm actually going to try that now. Let's see if I can drive up it. I don't think so, with all the bushes in the way. Actually got a lot further than I normally do. And I'm up it. I cannot believe that. This is actually so awesome. I've never been able to do that. So keeping the chassis low down with these 2 threads is actually helping quite a lot. So this downhill obstacle always goes wrong. Car always flips. So let's see if the strings are keeping it together. Absolutely no issues. This is quite amazing. Jeez, just ripped out a couple of bushes. Let's do a second try driving up here. See if you can film it a little bit better. You can see the car a little bit better. Brilliant. And obviously through the setting you have the chassis not rolling. That means your high speed runs are a lot more stable. Not bad, eh? Phew, I'm out of breath. That was quite a cool run. So this side hilling setup improves side hilling. Obviously, the further down you go, the more side hilling angle you will get out of the car. It keeps the chassis low to the ground, so your hill climbs and your descents are a lot securer. And obviously your high speed runs or drifts, which I didn't think it would be, but that is a lot more fun, let me tell you. So guys, try the setup out. It's just a string holding the bottom of the shock in place. Give it a bit of movement so that you do not manipulate the articulation, only manipulating the roll of the chassis. So guys, that's it from me this week. Thanks for watching. Click that notification bell. Don't forget, we've got the tire giveaway coming up for Easter holidays. And that's it from me. See you next week. Bye.